America covering all of the crazy stuff that's going on. I mean, from Roe v. Wade to them banning race out of the conversation.
Sure.
So how does that feel right now in this moment as someone who's been covering race for a long time, before it was very catchy, before like, you know, all these certain celebrities started to use hashtags that people like us have been covering for over 10 years.
Sure, yeah.
What does it feel like now to cover in this moment where you want to be like, I told you so?
Sure.
But then really, like, people are like dying, so you really can't be playing the finger game?
Well,
How does that feel?
Sure. I mean, yes, there is part of you, the petty part of you wants to say, welcome to the party, right?
Right.
But, you know, I do recognize that to be a black person, to be a black woman in this country right now is rough, right? But to be a black woman who has the platform that I have, the voice that I have, you know, as a journalist who has started a transformative newsroom that is trying to bring more people into our democracy, into our society, that feels like the best and highest use of who I am professionally and personally in this moment. I mean, we know black women are at the intersection of everything in terms of race and gender and everything that is happening in our country, whether you are talking about, obviously, yes, the reproductive rights conversation, gun rights reform, voting rights, very much on the front lines of that, you name it. Black women are there and have been there, right? Even before we had the right to vote, which is what my newsroom, the 19th, is named for, with an asterisk, if you've ever seen our logo, for which is in recognition of the white women who threw us under the bus in 1920. When
And
we
still
were,
throwing you under the bus.
well, you know, TBD,
Facts.
right? TBD. They're at the protest now. Can we keep up that same energy for another 100-ish days? TBD.
That's right.
Right.
Little asterisk
Yeah,
right there.
because there's an asterisk on that too. Because no, seriously, I mean, this is existential for so many people, and I think black women have long known that. I think that the response that you see from black women, not only on behalf of themselves or their community, but really for our democracy, they know that when they work to improve their own lives, they are working to improve the lives of all of us.
Awesome. Yeah, it's true.
So to be able to cover that feels like a tremendous privilege, even though it also feels very urgent at times.
Right.
Yeah.
I know how you feel. I mean, it's interesting because as journalists, so much of what goes out, there's a lot of things that don't go out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's like, I always describe it personally as like, you know, there's like a movie where you're narrating and there's like an omnipresent voice that like knows how everything's gonna play out. Everyone else, it's not the same because the audience and the people, the readers and people who subscribe, they only know about maybe 60 to 70% of it, but then there's so much that's left out.
Well, and they're also just living their lives, right? I mean,
Right.
you and I are obsessed with this stuff because we have to be, and we get a check to be obsessed with
That's
it.
right, right. 'Cause, like, I'll be like my brother in Houston and just be like, what happened? Okay.
Yeah.
let me get the Cliff Notes.
You'll be covering something, or you'll be paying attention to something, and you're thinking, oh my God, did you see this thing? And you ask any of your friends that are out of media, and they're just like, wait, what are you talking about? I have no idea what.
Too
you're
long,
saying.
didn't read.
Yeah.
That's the attitude, yeah.
But I mean, that's real, right? I mean, most people are living their lives. They're not paying attention to the day-to-day of all of this. And so it is, like I said, a privilege for me to be able to say, hey, this thing happened that you may need to know about, or this thing that happened today is going to impact your life, and here are the ways that it is doing that, or if maybe you heard something about this, so here's more information about this. If you want to get involved with this, here's how you can do it. Like, people need to feel empowered, and also, like, yeah, just with us being aware, because, you know, there are some of our, you know, colleagues who are not of color.
Our Caucasian colleagues.
Who make certain assumptions about what people know or don't know or should and shouldn't know.
Yes.
And you know, and that's not okay, because again, like, people are working for a living.
Right.
You know, they're raising children. They're doing whatever they're doing that is not being obsessed with what's happening in our politics or happening, you know, just in Washington.
Yeah.
Or on cable news.
And that makes me think about that a lot, is that there is always these layers and tiers of audience engagement.
Absolutely.
And what we think people should know and what we think people don't know and why. And I guess I'm wondering, like, from your standing point, there's been this term that's been used towards a lot of journalists of color around this term objectivity and
Sure.
both sidisms.
I mean,
and it's frustrating sometimes covering the issues when people are forcing you or thinking that, you have to tell this both sides situation.
Yeah.
You have to give equal time to the white supremacist, the same equal time to like the feminist.
No.
And there's that notion going on. And so what do you say, and how do you go about that and navigate that, especially as a black woman, where maybe you've been in newsrooms over the years? I mean, I imagine 19th is more intersectional, so you're
Absolutely.
definitely not having those problems. And
No.
I don't allow
Well,
those problems to happen in my,
No,
just
you
doing what I do.
you definitely shut it down.
They be like, both sides of what?
Any and everywhere that you are.
But,
No, but it's true.
But,
I mean, look,
yeah.
there is no both siding people's humanity.
right.
And that is the thing. I mean, you don't have to be a
Round of
journalist
applause for that's
to
real.
know that, but it's true. Like, that is what we say at the 19th.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We are not both siding people's humanity. We, we stand for human rights. We can say that as journalists. It's okay to say that. I would hope that journalists stand for human rights, right? That's not me being objective.
No, but
that's
you
me
have
being
to
a human being.
But you have to consider the people who don't.
Well,
That's what they say.
listen,
They say that those people matter is what they're trying to argue.
You know what? No. And furthermore, I mean, seriously, like there have to be people that just say no. And this is the thing that I appreciate so much about your leadership in so many different areas. But I mean, I was reading your column this morning.
Yeah.
You need to point out to the leaders that are here. There are some people in Philadelphia that are not going to have a summer because of the choices that you are making. That's not right.
Right.
In the city where we wrote about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, there are people that cannot pursue those things.
Right.
Because they're living in a very different Philadelphia than the people who are experiencing life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? Yeah. And so, yes, it matters that you have the platform that you have and the lens that you have because you are able to point that out for those folks. And that's important. That means something. So it's also about what they don't know and what they should know.
Right.
Right? And if they're not people like us who have a lived experience that is different, right, from the people that are normally covering our politics at the local, at the state, at the national level, then those stories get missed.
Absolutely. I think too often when we talk about, this conversation around both sides and these narratives, there's this aspect that like advocating for human rights is important. I think about it this way. If you're a journalist or someone who feels in this way obligated to do this both sidisms, if you're amplifying an institution of people that are trying to obstruct democracy, free press, and you're giving that amplification, you're basically gonna be out of a job, essentially. Like, you won't have the rights to do anything. You won't have a free press. You won't even be able to do your job if you're amplifying institutions, individuals, and giving them that same footing.
Yeah.
It's that thought about like amplifying things that you know is uniquely dishonest.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, I mean, look, we're not here to give both sides equal time. We are here to leave behind the most honest and accurate record of who and where we are as a country.
Right.
Right? And so if we're doing that, if we're covering this democracy, like you get both sides democracy. Like
right.
There either is democracy or there is not democracy. And platforming the big lie was something that we weren't going to do. I mean, literally a newsroom named for the 19th Amendment. Like, what do we look like? Saying, but also there's election integrity. Negative. Negative. Like, this is a problem. This is dangerous to our democracy. And that was even before January 6th. But I mean, obviously, clearly we have seen post-January 6th how dangerous it is to buy into or
Stop
to amplify
the steal,
that message.
Right? This whole stop the steal.
Yeah.
It's baffling to be like the whole stop the steal. And what it's interesting. Like, there's a lot of things that we can stop the steal on. Stop stealing women's rights, stop stealing LGBTQ rights. You can stop a lot of things. I would like to stop the steal of those things. And so that's what I try to focus the conversation on. But like also too, this conversation about media accessibility.
Sure.
Which has become a thing that a lot of people are debating about. That there are people running around saying, New York Times, more people should read those New York Times articles. But there's a paywall.
Yeah.
There's 1,000 things, and the people that get to access the New York Times that can afford it, those continue to act like they don't know what's going on in the world, even though they have a subscription. You know what I mean? Like, there's people that acted like, white privilege was a new term after 2020.
Sure.
They say, oh, I read this great New York Times article, and I'm just kind of like...
Again, welcome.
Right, we've been, right.
No.
White privilege, such a 2020 thing. So they thought, you know, after the racial uprisings. And so
LOL.
what do you think about this new what do you think about this the conversation around media accessibility? I know the 19th is accessible to people to go online,
That's right.
get this information, newsletters. Anybody can get a newsletter there. They don't have all these paywalls, and you got to get the silly bag to go with the subscription. You know what I'm talking about? No shade, but you know what I mean? Little handbag if you purchase and subscribe. You know, it's some people that you got to drop money.
What I will say, so the 19th is a nonprofit independent newsroom. We did that because we believe that journalism should be free. So we are free to consume and free to republish. So if there are any other media creators in here, if you have a blog, if you have a media platform, you can republish stories from the 19th on your platform as well. All you have to do is give us credit. We don't care if somebody knows whether or not a story is from the 19th. We just care that they're getting the information. And so that is what we believe. Because what's the point of covering and centering marginalized communities if they can't even read the content?
It's not like it's a
that
Broadway
you're producing.
show, you know?
Right, exactly. So no, that is really where I come down on that. But I think that social media has certainly helped to democratize journalism in a way that I think is productive. I'm not one of those people that thinks Twitter is the devil or evil. Twitter can be a town hall that is productive. I know it can also be.
Or it can be the Source Awards.
It can be that. It can be. BT Hip Hop Awards for those of us who are from Atlanta who know what happens in the men's bathroom.
That's right.
Anyway, no, but yes, it doesn't always have to be waking up and choosing violence.
It's like a reality TV show on Twitter sometimes. It's like, you liar, who are you? I don't know.
But people can hold people hold journalists accountable on there in a way that they were not used to.
That's true.
Right? In a way that they didn't used to have to answer for, didn't have to actually explain how they got their reporting or what it was to stick a microphone in somebody's face on the worst day of their life. You know what I mean? So it is causing us to be, I hope, much more thoughtful about how we do our jobs and to understand that nobody owes us their story. It is a privilege every single time that I get to hit the button on my story that I talk to somebody and ask them something and they actually answer. I'm a stranger, for God's sake. Yeah, maybe you saw me on TV, but like, who cares? Like, you don't know me. And here I am asking you to tell me about your whole life. You know, oh, and by the way, I have to hang up in 30 minutes. Like, no. Like, we are lucky that people continue to do that.
Absolutely. And, you know, you've navigated social media pretty well. I feel like
I've
learned in my terrains on it. You know, the block is just everything. I don't know why people just don't practice block. You save so much time. There are people that I get into with on there, and I'm just like, you could just block. You don't even got to get engaged, baby. It don't have to be this way. But to that point,
I do enjoy the incoming every day when I see that you tweeted something. I'm like, what's going to happen today?
I do start a lot of things on Twitter. If you follow me on Twitter, some of you all, you know, I hit 36,000 followers today. Thank you.
And can hit more.
Oh, my handle's at Mr. Ernest Owens.
Right, I was going to say, you can hit more right now.
Yeah, you can.
Keep that number going.
Well, yeah, they're going to tag us some right now. We're going viral. But no, with social media, it's so important with journalism nowadays. And as you said it earlier, it just opens up that floor of engagement. So often newsrooms have asked questions like, we want to know what the readers think. I don't think they want to know as much now sometimes.
Yeah.
But they're like, we want, you know, because they have the surveys, but they don't do the surveys. You know in real time how someone feels about a story based on the response and the reaction. I think about that story just happened at New York Magazine about canceled at 17. That was a messy story. There's a lot of stories that happen that
well, you
gets
know a little bit
people's
about
attention.
cancel culture.
Yes, I have a book, but about your book, Twice as Good. Let's talk about this Twice as Good. You know, some people here might be saying, Twice as Good, what does that mean? I mean, black folks know what that means. But for our other guests, tell us about what it means to be twice as good. Because they have only had to been once as good, you know.
I can't. Oh my God,
they won't let me do a fireside chat again.
The fire is roaring now. You just threw another log on there. So I am writing a book. Ernest, I am following in your footsteps, my author friend. I'm writing a book, and it is about Vice President Kamala Harris as the second most powerful person in the country.
Yes.
And but the more that I have thought about it, the book is tentatively titled Twice as Good because that is the message that most of us as black folks, especially if you're a black woman, have received to get anywhere in your professional life. If you want to be anything, you have to work twice as hard, be twice as good as white people to even get half as much.
Right.
So so the book is mainly focused on the vice president, but it is also focused on the black women who are leading across many spaces in our democracy, in our society, what that leadership looks like, and honestly, what it's going to take to change the political imagination period of people in this country about who gets to have power, who gets to be a leader in our country, because there are just so many. I promise you, every time I see that there is still one of us that is a first in anything, I'm just kind of like, wait, what?
Yes.
2022, somebody's the first person to do something, and it's just kind of like, I clap for that individual, but I'm also just like, come on, America, do better, right? Come on.
We're like the first black panelists to sit on these blue couches, this front
Trailblazers.
of MySpace.
Icons.
It's always
Pioneers.
these new trailblazer tactics. First gay man to wear this type of nail polish on a stage like this. Like, it's always some milestone, right? and sometimes it's meaningful, but sometimes people do the most.
They do.
Like, I'm the first black baker on this corner. This corner just got started a year ago. Calm down, boo.
Not all firsts are relevant.
Kamala's is clearly an important
Yes.
first. It's a monumental first for sure. And you got the opportunity to be the first to interview her right when she had the nomination.
Yes.
It's almost, 2 years ago? It feels like
Yeah.
it was like
I
last
know.
year.
Well, it's been a long 2 years.
And
Yeah,
so
sure.
it's been some time now. She's been in her office. How have you been assessing, her performance? That might be a little taboo, but I'm going to ask anyway. How have you been assessing her performance and the work she's been doing?
Well, I'm glad you asked.
Honestly, though.
No, I literally, right before I came out here, I hit the button on the column that I wrote about her. I got to spend some time with her just last week in Florida because I had not sat down with her for, shout out to Florida.
Shout out to the people in Florida doing good things, because Florida, okay, let's play a disclaimer. I'm putting a disclaimer. We're going to keep that governor there. Don't give him no national ideas. Just saying. We were talking earlier about starting elections and stopping elections. That's an election we don't want to, campaigns we don't want to, Anyway, yes, sorry.
So that was honestly, that was part of the reason she was in Florida, right? Taking the battle directly to him and saying, look, this is the epicenter of the erosion of freedom and liberty in this country.
So she was trying to stop the steal of freedom.
She was trying to get the voters there to help in the stopping of the stealing of freedom. But also, look, it was, she starts the day, going to address her sorority at their convention, and she ends the day, we're at a military base, looking at the threats in the Middle East to our country, while we're talking about gas prices and it's like, no, actually, these are the centers of energy in the world, and this is how that affects America. So it was kind of runs the gamut, but it's that's basically what her daily schedule is, but most people don't know that because most people aren't getting an email every morning saying, here's the vice president's schedule, right? And most of the media does not cover the vice president, because since when do you cover the vice president? The vice president is not normally a very important person.
No.
Not very consequential in our politics, right? We're following Joe Biden around every single day. We're not following what Kamala Harris is doing. But because she's in this historic role, you do have people who are like, hey, this is a person that represents me. Black people who are literally like, look, I didn't vote for Joe Biden, I voted for this person. I want to see this person. What is she doing, right? So they want to, people are like, where's Kamala Harris? Want to see her more. And I think she's finally getting that message. This is not somebody that is used to kind of being the retail politician that Joe Biden is, grabbing babies and, knowing everybody's name and all that kind of stuff. That wasn't who she was. You're in California. For those of you who maybe are from California, you campaign on television. You're not going out and shaking hands, right? So this is a new skill for her. But also, making the case to specific audiences based on who she is. I think that's something that maybe she recognized was important, but it wasn't something that she was doing as much as she is doing now. And so there is a shift. There's a shift in her approach. There's a shift in her strategy. Now there's some new staff. Maybe that has something to do with it, right? But Yeah, I mean, I think this is somebody who has been very cautious and guarded in terms of who she is and how she interacts with the American people, but like that's not what people expect from people at that level of leadership in our country. So it's an adjustment.
Absolutely. So, transitioning a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, in your role with NLC now, so what are you looking forward to doing with NLC? I mean, you're going to see more of her, clearly.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, she is on the NLC advisory board.
No,
Yes.
this is
Philadelphia taking over.
you know.
Sorry. Other people too. All
Right.
power matters.
Oh my God. Oh my God. No, I mean, look, this is very exciting for me. I mean, the new Leaders Council it is a very exciting and dynamic organization. I was just telling somebody backstage that, you know, I don't think there's a person that I've met that has come through NLC who is not so on fire for this organization, so committed and working so hard to really not only pay it forward, but also it seems like it's the kind of place where you get out what you put into it. And so I think part of my job as a new advisory council member is to do a lot of listening, to kind of see where it is that you all need to go from here, what you're thinking about in terms of what is next and what is going to be required of the new leaders of the future, right? Because we know that leadership cannot continue to look like it has looked in our democracy, in our society. It needs to reflect a changing America.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
And, you know, I think that there are definitely, I think there's an increased recognition of that, and that's regardless of ideology. I think there's a recognition of that. Regardless of what part of the country people are in, I think there's a recognition of that it is going to take new leadership and new energy for there to be new ideas and a new direction for what happens next, whatever that is.
Awesome.
And it's going to be new leaders that are at the forefront of whatever that change is.
Awesome. So, our final and last question.
Uh-oh.
Real quickly, before we wrap up. What is one prediction you have for the midterms? That's a good question, isn't it? Because it's like right around the corner.
Record turnout, record voter turnout.
Record voting
yes,
turnout.
and I think that may be true on both sides.
Okay.
I think that voters are energized and galvanized. Every voter that I talk to is very motivated by something.
Okay.
Whether it is the economy, whether it is abortion, whether it is guns, whether it is critical race theory, whether it is don't say gay, they are motivated by at least one of those things, if not multiple things. And they are determined to make their voice heard on that issue.
I agree. I feel like if I could vote right now, it's like Amazon, we could pre-order something. Like
if
my
the
vote.
election was today.
And you could just pre-order my vote. Wish I could just have in the cart ready to submit for like November just right now. Because I'm just ready. I already know where my mind is made up.
People are
all
clear.
of them out. Get
People
them out.
are locked in.
Yeah.
I know a lot of voters are not necessarily paying attention in the middle of the summer, whatever, they've got summer vacations and whatever else that they're dealing with. But there are a lot of voters that are very much plugged in, and they are very ready for election day to get here. So they're already thinking about it. They're already making sure everybody they know is registered and ready to go in November.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for listening to our Q Fireside chat. Thank you. Thanks. Oh, she's standing. Okay. Yes.
You know what? What are you doing?
Oh, look at her standing.
Hey,
So, thank you so much for, Errin is awesome as always. You can follow her on Twitter, Instagram.
Yes.
You can follow both of us on Twitter,
Absolutely.
Instagram.
Absolutely.
And she'll definitely be around. This is, she's not an NLC guest, she's NLC family.
Apparently.
So we love her so much. And yeah,